Okay, I'd like to open the joint committee meeting of the Metro-North Railroad Committee and the Long Island Railroad Committee. First of all, any public comments? Apparently not. I need an approval of minutes. Minutes as submitted, two sets of minutes, one from Metro-North, one from Long Island.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay, Metro-North.
Okay, good morning. I had a couple of things I wanted to mention to the committee before we do the status of operations. One is that about 2 weeks ago, Metro-North signed with the city of Poughkeepsie, and Jim was partook in the ceremony along with Dutchess County Executive Bill Steinhaus and the mayor and myself to do a TOD development agreement around the train station. So this is a grant that we got. We got the money from the New York State Department of State, and it'll help us do some planning, joint planning, to set the stage for a possible TOD development at the Poughkeepsie station. The second item I want to highlight is that on April 29th, Metro-North had a perfect day in its operation. This was a weekday. I believe it was our first weekday of the year. Bob, is that right? Yeah. And I think, yeah. And I think it's the sixth day of the year. So again, it's a real tribute to all the people at Metro-North, and particularly in the operating division, to get about the 680 trains running on time, every single train that day. So that was an excellent day. Bob will talk more about the overall operation, but I wanted to highlight that for you, and also to thank the Metro-North employees for that effort. With that, we're ready for operations.
Okay, status of operations. Bob.
Good morning, everyone. Status of operations is outlined on page 14 in your agenda book. In April, we operated at 97.9%, which was above our goal of 97.7%. All categories were above goal except for the AM reverse peak, which ran at 97.1, slightly below our goal of 97.5. Of the 30 days in April, we operated below 95% on 3 days and no days below 90%. Total of 365 trains operated late out of 17,749. Year-to-date, our OTP for the month ending April 30th is 98%. And as Howard said, on April 29th, we had our 100% day and our first midweek day. I believe it was a Thursday. West of Hudson. West of Hudson status is outlined on page 19 in your agenda book. The West of Hudson service operated at 98.1% in April, above goal of 96.3. Only 32 trains operated late out of 1,690. The Port Jervis line operated at 96.9, above a goal of 95.2. And the Pascack Valley operated at 98.9, above goal of 97. I'll talk about it more next month, but over the past 2 weeks in May, from May 8th to May 20th, we ran 100% 12 consecutive days on the Port Jervis line, which was quite a feat. MDBF, our MDBF is outlined on page 21 in your agenda book. For the month was 176,730, above goal of 110,000, and we're actually year-to-date at 148,691. And if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Any questions for Bob?
Bob, I know we've sort of been over this over the years with others. The number for the M7s of 912,000 miles is startlingly high, and it will tend to skew the numbers. And it just wondered whether it was just a statistical anomaly. Is there?
No, I mean, it is high. I will say that all of the categories, I think, except for the Genesis engine, which was slightly below goal, they all exceeded goal for the month of March. M7 is exceedingly high. Yes, you are correct. But it's been a very reliable car for us to this point in time. But everything was above goal. We're doing very well in almost all of our categories. Our weakest stuff, as you know, is on the New Haven line. But of course, the CSR work has increased probably by 50% the reliability of our M2 fleet. So we did get a good bang for our buck out of that. But right now, the fleet is, John Kessich and Company is doing a good job on keeping the fleet running.
Good. I just wanted to
Sure.
hear that from you. That's good
Yep.
news too.
Any more questions? Thanks, Bob. Why don't we do financial with Kim first?
Good morning. March financial report begins on page 28. Once again, I will cover overall financial results for year-to-date March, and Bob McClagger will cover ridership results. March results once again showed another month of good, favorable results against the budget and continuation of significant underspending in expenditures and a rebounding in ridership. Similar to the month of February, Metro North's March net deficit of $58 million is favorable to the budget by $9 million or 13%. This makes our year-to-date net deficit of $165 million favorable by $27 million or 14%. Year-to-date, March farebox operating ratio increased slightly to 54.7% and is almost 6% favorable to the budget. 1.4% is favorable to the budget due to higher farebox revenues, and the remainder is due to lower expenditures. Year-to-date cash subsidies of $75 million is favorable to the budget by $56 million. What this means is that we took $50 million less in subsidies from MTA and $6 million less in subsidies from CDOT. Lower subsidies are obviously due to higher cash receipts, lower cash disbursements, and to a small degree changes in available cash balances. Metro North's financial management initiatives, which were put in place in January of this year, are, in order to further reduce the budget expenditures, are continuing to show positive results. For example, we continue to see positive variances in overtime spending against the budget due to tighter management of unscheduled overtime. This is also in light of the fact that in March we had a nor'eastern weather events, and we still were positive to the budget for overtime and continue to be year-to-date. We are also achieving reductions in materials and supply spending through strategic procurement initiatives, and those related to joint partnering reviews of business processes between the operations and procurement, as well as joint initiatives with Long Island and other MTA agencies. Other operating revenues continues to also be favorable to the budget by 13%. These reflect higher advertising revenues as well as higher GCT net retail revenues. Farebox operating revenues for the month of March grew to reflect a 4% increase over the budget. This brings our year-to-date favorable variance to 3% from 2% last month as a result of higher ridership. This concludes my section of the report. Bob will cover ridership, and we can answer any questions you have.
Any questions? I just like to take everyone to page 39. I've been watching our staffing the last few years, and I think we've hit a milestone here. In 1984, the total employees that Metro North had was 6,173 employees. As of the end of March, we have 5,923 employees, which means we have 250 less employees now than we had in 1984. This in light of the fact that ridership has increased 66%, and the number of trains operated has been increased by 33%. This is the first time in a number of years it's worked down into the negative, but it just shows the kind of work we're trying to do here to reduce the financial burden on this MTA. So I think it's important that we watch this stuff because it's becoming more a factor as we go forward.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Bob, you're up.
Good morning. The Metro North monthly ridership report is in your book starting on page 44. In the book we have March results for east of Hudson, west of Hudson, and connecting services. I'm just going to briefly give you a first look at the preliminary results for April. In the month of April, east of Hudson ridership, this is east of Hudson only, total ridership grew by 1.1% compared to April of 2009. That's a little over 3% over budget. Commutation ridership grew 0.3%. This is the first time we've seen positive growth across all three lines since the end of 2008. Non-com ridership grew 2.3% versus April 2009. Year-to-date, total ridership stands at a 0.7% down versus the first 4 months, of 2009. Commutation is down 1.8 year-to-date, and non-com ridership is up 1% now versus 2009. If you have any questions about the preliminary April or any of the March numbers, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions? Jim?
Bob, I recognize that sometimes trying to be more timely can be dangerous if numbers are not solid. But on the other hand, you're talking now about numbers that seem to be in the bag for April. And I'm wondering whether it would be possible to include those figures, at least the macro figures in the executive summary going forward. I know we had departed from the practice of making reference to the most recent month on a preliminary basis. It just speaking as a committee member, it's difficult to follow and to contextualize the numbers that you're putting forward with the numbers that we spent time studying overnight. And if there's some way that we can unify the two in black and white, it would certainly be appreciated.
Okay. The issue we face, Jim, is that the preliminary numbers that I cite today are not available by the date upon which we have to put the book together for production and to go out the door. We'll talk, maybe we can do a handout the day of.
Jim, what I suggest is we've had this concern because we're trying to balance giving you accurate numbers versus most timely information. But why don't you let the Long Island Railroad Metro North let us talk between us so we can do something consistently that we both can produce and can address the concern you raised.
Yeah, I leave the solution to you, but suggest that everyone's on email and maybe just an email blast on Friday before the meeting or something might do the job.
All right. Let's see what we can figure out.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you. Capital program.
Jim, if I might, I'm sorry to be doing this, but would you be so bold as to say that we're bottoming out?
I wouldn't be so bold, but if I was so bold, I would say I think as we move into the summer, we're going to see more positive numbers. And that's based on just looking at some 2-year and 3-year trends. If you remember when we were sitting here last June and July, the numbers were appallingly bad. And the 8 to 9% drop in commutation ridership and non-com was significantly down also. We'll see when we get to June, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Tim.
Good morning. The capital program update starts on page 55. I'll give you a brief update on our concrete type program. Track 3 between Rye and Greenwich has been returned to service. Between Greenwich and Stamford, the program is ongoing, and that'll be completed approximately the second week in June. Concurrently, on the Upper Hudson line between CP 61 and 75, that's Beacon and Poughkeepsie, Track 1 is out of service for the concrete tie work, and that will go back in service in mid-June. At Cortland, for the new parking lot that we're building up there, the entrance roadway and the bridge abutment construction has started. The retaining wall formwork is in progress, and if you ride past there, you'll see it's quite formidable. It'll be followed by the concrete placement and the fill to level it out for the parking lot. And approximately 60% of the drainage and water lines have been installed. Excuse me. At Ossining, the south-facing stairs, the new stairs at on the east side, on the track 3 side, have been put in service, and the north-facing stairs and the overpass have been taken out of service for demolition. And at Tarrytown, you'll see that the precast platform sections are being installed on Track 3. There's a lot of progress going on down there. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
I'd like to note that on our trip to Poughkeepsie for this TOD event, we went through the Poughkeepsie train station. The amount of work that's been done up there is phenomenal. I think the last time I was up there was maybe 3 years ago. We had asbestos problems, and just to go through there now, there is a plan to make that a destination. Well, now I can believe it because I've seen it after the. So thanks.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure the staff will be appreciative to hear that. A lot of hard work is going on up there.
Safety, Mark.
Good morning. I'll summarize the safety report that's in your books beginning on page 61. Starting first with employee safety, the total number of employee injuries was down 37% compared to last year, 42 versus 67. The lost time and restricted duty employee injuries adjusted for work hours was down from 2.31 per 200,000 hours worked to 1.97, a 15% decrease. And the FRA reportable injuries were down from 47 to 35, again adjusted for work hours from 2.94 to 2.3, a 12% decrease. The customer injuries during this period, by the way, which is through March, there were 19 less customer injuries during this period, a 42% decrease. Again, I would just caution at this point that the customer injuries remain green for a very long time, and we get reports throughout the year about injuries, so comparing to the year earlier period is always a little bit misleading at this point in the year. But the injuries adjusted for ridership are down from 2.43 to 1.43 injuries per million rides, a 41% decrease. And the FRA reportable customer injuries, again, were down from 0.49 per million rides to 0.16. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mark? Thanks, Mark. Howard, information items.
Yeah, we have 3 items. First is the inventory report. Just the only thing is it provides the information that we do in this regular report. I'll highlight that we are seeing the benefits of the different initiatives that we have put in to control inventory starting in January, and you see some of the results, and some reduction in inventory is now, you see it showing up in the report. Secondly, we have a license agreement with Putnam County for the bike path they're building. I just mentioned, Bob, thank you for your help on that. I think this is part of that whole process to finally get the land that the county needs to complete the bike trail, so this gives them the license. We made the accommodations necessary for the county so they can build the bike path to meet federal standards and get the federal money. And then finally is our regular schedule change memo. Bob, do you want to just briefly summarize that?
Effective June 21st, on East of Hudson, there are some summertime changes going in to support capital projects. The completion of the concrete tie work that's been going on between Beacon and Poughkeepsie allows us to restore the normal schedules on the Upper Hudson. We're moving to the next phase of a long-term station rehabilitation project on the Mid-Hudson. So we were going to restore normal side running in the morning, and so we'll be a series of changes to support that. Also, there are some budget-related changes on the Hudson and Harlem lines that we've talked about previous months that will be going into effect now on June 21st. Actually, yesterday, New Jersey Transit had its spring schedule change, which includes some minor adjustments related to changes to Secaucus. They're adjusting a few scheduled trains on the Port Jervis to try to improve the connections to Secaucus. It's an ongoing dance that we do with the Northeast Corridor. And also there is a budget-related change on the Pascagoula Valley that was we've also talked about previous months. So those actually took place this morning. Any questions? Yes.
I noticed also that the Berkshire connecting service has been canceled. I think that's another factor that Berkshire connecting service that goes from
Yeah, as you know, that we had been sponsoring a bus that went up to Great Barrington through Dutchess, Columbia counties, and we basically, it always turned a profit, but it was a very small amount of money. It was $5,000, $10,000, and in these times, we just don't think it was worth the investment in the staff time and with our reductions in positions, quite frankly, to be able to supervise it adequately so as to be able to provide the service we want. So unfortunately, we won't be running it this summer, and the service will not be operating.
Okay, thanks. Jim?
Thank you, Jim. Relative to the service changes, I was thinking that one of the impacts of the service changes, of course, is going to be higher loading, and I'm wondering whether you've given any thought, Howard, to a little closer reporting on standees on our trains in order to get a sense of what the impact of the higher loading standards is going to be.
You raised a very good point. As of June 21st, we will put in our new loading standards, which, as part of our budget cuts, will significantly reduce the length of trains to a new loading standard. And it will definitely be noticeable because the trains are going to be shorter. When we put together the plan, which actually dates back a little bit towards last year, you recall ridership was also on a downward trend. As Bob is reporting, ridership is now turning around, which makes the management of this program that much more important. And we also have to look at it to see there may be a couple of places where what we thought we could do, we no longer can do because ridership has gone up. So we're going to be managing the program very carefully. Bob will be calculating, we'll be doing counts all the time, checking on that. And with regard to the reporting, we'll work with you, Jim. We'll figure out, I think the current report should capture if we have standees, but if there's something else you're looking for, we can talk about it.
Well, the reason I bring it up, aside from the stated reasons, is that I think the report as given has always been kind of characterized by you all as being more of a formulaic presentation and did not have as part of its underpinnings, real head count.
No, it has real head. It's based on actual ridership counts. It's an actual operation, actual ridership counts. I think maybe you're describing that it does not deal with. We don't know how many people are on every train every day. We know what the average is, and that's what we use to represent the train. And then we know what actually operated on the train, and that's how it's calculated. So I'm not sure. Maybe we can talk about it offline.
No. So if you're saying that whatever the changes are that are likely to occur as a result of the budget strategies will show up.
Yes, they will show up.
Okay, that's great.
Okay. I think what Jim was mentioning is you're not actually, what you're reporting is what he meant formulaic is assuming that people will take seats. If there's a seat people don't like and they stand, that may happen. No. And that's what, what you may see a train where seems to be a lot of standees on it, and empty seats.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that's what we may see, and people will have to move to cars that are half empty. We'll probably have that more on the Long Island Railroad than maybe on, I don't know, but I know that's what we've discussed that, and we always had the issue of Metro North. More people like to be on the south end of the train than the north end of the train, for example. So you will have that type of circumstance. What we've defined here, we've always been careful to define it so as to accurately represent what you're describing. Is we call them basically people who have to stand. And so we recognize there are more people standing because somebody would rather be by the door than in the middle seat. And we can't count them.
Absolutely.
And quite frankly, I'm not even sure what you'd do if you could count them.
Forgive me. But you'll see a situation that may appear to be a crowded. I've seen this on the railroad. This several cars seem to be crowded. Then you get to the end of the train, there's nobody in it.
Same thing. Metro-North has similar.
I mean, forgive me, what exactly are the loading standards now, and what are they being changed to? I'm sort of new to the committee.
Let me see if I have this right. We have different standards for different times of the day. So we have a weekend standard, an off-peak, and a peak, right, Bob? And we are changing it. Our standard had been that we did not reduce cars. Let me see if I have this right. It's a little confusing. But basically, we did not reduce train lanes if the standard was going to be above 87%. We used a floor and a ceiling.
Okay.
So now what we changed it to, and we added cars when the train was above 95%. So now what we've changed it to is we will reduce consists as long as the ridership is up to 95%. So that 8% difference between 87 and 95, when you do that, results in a lot of trains losing 2 cars.
And that would push the percent up above 100?
No. Our intent is that at 95%, given the normal variation, if we run a full consist, we should be basically between around 90 to 100% on any given day. You have a much less margin for error, though,
Sure,
Jeff,
it
to your
puts
point.
pressure on
It's a
daily.
much less margin for error. We're going to have to monitor it much more closely. We'll make some changes if the ridership's bouncing around on certain trains. Mondays are heavier and Wednesdays are heavier than Fridays. So it does it will definitely be noticed by the commuters. I mean, there's no question that there will be days when we think we had average 95%, but because ridership's up 7% that day because it's a Monday or it's a Wednesday, there will not be enough seats. And that's what this does. So it's a major impact. I don't want to understate
And a full
that.
consist is what, 10 cars, and you go down to 8? Or could
Each train
change
is different. It's basically between 5 and 12.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Long Island Railroad, Helena.
Okay, just to continue that discussion, I actually have 2 items that I wanted to address before we get to our regular reporting. The first is that Long Island Railroad instituted its new timetables on May 17th. In those new timetables, we absorbed the train schedule reductions that were approved by the board. 9 trains were canceled, 4 trains had consist reductions. We have instituted a program to count the number of customers on those impacted trains. What we identified were the trains, either before or after the 9 that were canceled, and that results in about 30 trains that we're actually monitoring what happens in terms of the number of standees. And that includes the 4 trains with the consist reductions. So we are doing actual train counts. We're trying to determine what the impact is on the customer. To answer Commissioner Kay's question, we had the same 95% standard for standees. I will say that Long Island Railroad does have a couple of anomalies, just trains where, we have no solution for the number of people that ride. They just choose that train regardless of the fact that it's a crowded train. And those are program standees that exceed the 95% standard. There's a few of them. You can see them in the standee report. So we will report to you back on what the impact is. We're monitoring very closely the Port Washington service because there's some adjustments that we may need to make when we go into the September timetable there and eliminate half-hourly off-peak service and go to hourly service. So we want to make sure we're tracking those trains right on the shoulder of the peaks. So we will update you on that. We think that's something we have to watch as well in terms of number of standees. Same as Metro North, we have a number of customers that just choose to stand and don't use the middle seat. The second item that I wanted to address, which you will see in our operations report, Long Island Railroad has had an uptick in the number of signal violations occurring on our system, and it has had an impact on the reliability of train service that's being offered. You'll see that in our April operating report. And it was an item that I think was also in our operations report last month. Year-to-date, there have been 8 violations involving the movement of a train through a stop signal. And that's as compared to 5 incidents in 2009, 3 incidents in 2008, and 9 incidents in 2007. We began an immediate comprehensive operations and safety response when we saw this uptick occurring in March. We have instituted a number of programs and really intensified the response by our transportation managers, including what we call efficiency testing and safety discussions and observations. Our entire transportation management staff has been fully engaged in responding. They've been increasing what we call safer observations, situational awareness for effective railroading. We've been in contact with Metro North, Amtrak, and FRA regarding any program elements that we could reinforce in our own program. I am pleased to say that we think that we are having an effective approach with our engineers and our train crews. Although we did have 2 incidents in May, that was in early May, we're at the end of the month, and we seem to be back to our more reliable train operation. One of the issues that occurs for Long Island Railroad is because of the density of our service and our own protocols. When these issues do occur, we have an operating protocol that requires, all trains in the vicinity to stop. The engineer and train crew gets changed out. The track and signals and switches get inspected to make sure that we can proceed. So that does have a significant impact on customers when it happens in the peak hour in one of our high-density areas. I am, confident in the program that Ray's been overseeing with transportation, including additional efficiency testing. We actually use, banner tests, a cloth banner that goes across the track. It surprises the engineer, and of course they have to respond and be ready to stop. The key focus in any safe train operation is operational awareness, situational awareness by our engineers, and our program is designed to increase that situational awareness, and I think we're having a very positive impact. With that, I'm going to turn to Ray for the monthly operations report.
Good morning. The operating report starts on page 68 of our book. And our on-time performance of April 2010 was 91.53%, with the AM peak finishing at 96.68%, the PM peak at 82.79%, and the off-peak at 92.18%. Year-to-date, ending April 30th, our on-time performance was 93.62%, with the AM peak at 93.43%, the PM peak at 90.88%, and the off-peak ending at 94.2%. We had 5 100% rush hours during April, 4 in the morning and 1 in the PM peak. And year-to-date, we've had 17 100% rush hours. 21 100% rush hours, 13 in the morning and 8 in the PM. Our AM car availability was met each day during the month of April, and year-to-date this requirement has been met 81 of 83 days. And now reporting on the mean distance between failure for February 2010, and please note that there's a 1-month lag in reporting here. Our total fleet MBDF was 192,163 miles, which exceeded our goal. And the MBDF goal was exceeded for the M7, the M3, the DM, the DE, and the total diesel fleets. Total fleet also, only the C3 fleet fell short. Regarding major events, there are 2 of particular note. The most significant event of the month occurred just as we were staging for the PM rush hour on April 14th. There was a fatality at Kew Garden Station. We lost 2 of the 4 tracks en route to Penn Station, and this resulted in 171 late trains, including 19 that had to be canceled. Also resulted in crowding at Penn Station during the evening rush hour. And the next evening, Amtrak sustained a loss of supervisory control to the switches at the west end of Penn Station. That resulted in 120 late trains, including 18 that were canceled. The MTA police provided assistance both at the fatality and at Penn Station for the crowding on the 14th, and also during the service disruption the following evening. And they also assisted us with the opening of the New York Mets season at Mets Willets Point Stadium Station. The safety overview through March, our reportable employee accidents decreased by 19%. Customer accidents were reduced by 18%. Rail accidents are down by 65%. And overall fire incidents are down 22%. And that concludes the operating report for April, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ray?
And it's even, I see it in the major events, there seems to be well, maybe it's a rash of signal problems. I mean, this is also on the email alerts our group receives, so I don't know if that's because of there being flooding problems or what, but there seems to be, even not major delays, but people have noted that to me. I mean, I see this, well, maybe the interlocking, I guess that's an Amtrak responsibility.
Yes.
That was a major one. But there's other one. There's a couple of others here too, at Harold, and I think twice it was lost. Signal trouble at Harold. So I don't know if that's being looked into. If there's something that caused.
We are monitoring that. In a particular instance at April, it's just like the one you mentioned at Harold was 845 switch, pretty much a function of where it happened and a name dropper here.
Okay, Carl, we know you're here.
In that particular instance, a function of where it happened and when it happened. It was during the PM rush hour, so we had about 30 trains.
I mean, but are there more? Are you seeing more signal problems than there were, let's say, the month before, or is this? I mean, it's a perception the passengers have when they see the email alerts, and I see it here. There's 2 or 3 incidents. And
I will take a look. I have not noticed that, but I will take a look and see if there's an uptick in that.
And on the MDBF, I just want to say I know that the C3s are less, but what's encouraging is that the rolling average is meeting goal on the diesel fleet. So that's encouraging, although there's a lot of delays.
That's right.
There's still a lot of delays.
Any other questions? Jim?
Thank you, Jim. A few things, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Ray. On the on-time performance, the numbers for April and year-to-date April as compared to 2009 were perceptibly lower, it seemed to me. Now, does that mean that performance by Long Island standards was much higher in 2009, and that this is more the norm, or has something negative occurred in this year relative to performance in 2010?
This year we had the major events totaled took more than 3% off of our OTP, including the 2 I mentioned. Put together, they affected our on-time performance by 1.5% just with those 2 events alone. Historically, as you note, April is our best month.
I see. So we can look for some improvement over these April numbers in future months?
Yes.
I see. Also, if I read the events correctly, there were 3 people who were struck during the month?
There was one at Kew Gardens. There was a person at Wyandanch. And there was a person at Farmingdale. The person at Farmingdale, fortunately, was not very badly injured. Yeah. But it was during the morning rush hour.
That just seemed like a fairly high number to me. It was alarming. Is that... Does that alarm you?
I defer to the police chief, but I believe that we're no higher than prior years so far. It's just, again, it happened to hit the rush hours. especially the one at Kew Gardens in terms of its service disruption was very devastating.
Okay. On page 73, this is just a thought for a matter of consistency. Over the years, we have instituted on the Metro North side a listing in the MDBF report of the numbers of units in each of the equipment types so that one can get a sense for the impact of over or under on MDBF statistics. And Jim, if you think that's worth instituting on the Long Island side, it's like a one-time add to
we would be happy
the
to
table.
do that. Sure.
And we found it useful, I think.
I think that Mitch and I have agreed that after the 3 or 4 months of doing this, we're going to sit down and we're going to try to bring the reports closer together so that they equal each other or give the same information. In light of that, one of the questions that I had was on your on-time performance. If we could give, if you could give us your goals that you projected.
Sure, certainly.
Because when you compare them, that would tell us a better story.
Yes.
And lastly, on that page 73, Ray, if you could explain what the primary failures box means. I just have not seen that before, and I didn't understand what it.
Okay, what that is part of the calculation of the mean distance between failures. We have what's considered a primary failure of the equipment that caused the delay, and they're counted up for the month divided by the number of miles that the fleet operates. And that's where we get our mean distance between failure.
Okay. And what's the significance of that versus the numbers above?
Well, that is one of the components of the number above. See, the number above would be taken by if we take, for example, the M7 fleet. The M7 fleet, 836 cars operated X miles, divided by the number of primary failures.
So it's just knowing which of the fleet categories have had failures during the month and the number that they've had.
That's right, and that's the measure. And one of the reasons is that it's better than using delays, because a train could have a primary failure and have one delay, or it could have a primary failure in a bad spot and have 100 delays. So this normalizes the numbers for people.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, financial and ridership. Mark.
Good morning. The finance report for the Long Island Railroad begins on page 90. But before I get to that, just like you heard from Metro North, I'll provide you with some preliminary, or actually relatively final, April ridership numbers, more current information. During the month of April, Long Island Railroad total ridership was down 1.6% compared to April 2009. That actually was our best month of 2010. Commutation ridership was down 1.9%. Also our best month year-to-date. All of the other 3 months prior to that had shown declines of between 4 and 6.5%. So that's somewhat of a dramatic change on the commutation side. Non-commutation was down 1.2% in April compared to April of the prior year. But we've seen a lot of fluctuation. 1 month it's up, 1 month it's down on the non-commutation side. So we'll keep watching that figure. Year to date, our ridership is down 2.9%. However, that's essentially right on budget. We had projected conservatively that we would lose ridership this year. Commutation ridership is down 4.2%. And non-commutation is down 0.8% year to date. It's actually up 1.9% versus our budget. Moving to the actual budget report, which is on page, the text begins on page 91. This is through March. Total revenue generated by the Long Island Railroad was $163 million, which is $4.9 million or 2.9% unfavorable to budget.
Most of this, about $2.8 million, is just due to the timing of some capital project activity. And $1 million was due to timing of advertising payments to the Long Island Railroad. And $1.1 million, of course, is related to the ridership decline. On the expense side, through March, our total expenses were $421 million, which is approximately $25 million favorable to the budget. Labor expenses, labor-related expenses, were $6 million favorable. Much of that was due to better than budgeted or less costly than budgeted fringe benefits costs, about $5 million of the difference. $1.4 million was attributable to straight-time payroll savings, largely due to vacancies that had existed through much of the year. During the month of March, several engineering department staff were temporarily reassigned from capital activity to non-capital activity, which is why in the book you'll see we're overhead count in the non-reimbursable side, but that should change going forward. As far as overtime, we had been just about right on budget in terms of spending for overtime through March. The month of March was tough. We had two major weather-related events that significantly drove up overtime in that month. So year-to-date, we're $700,000 over, but I would note that the budget itself reflects a roughly 20% reduction in overtime over last year. So that's a aggressive target that we're looking to hit. Non-labor expenses are $14 million favorable. Much of that, almost half, is due to the timing of East Side Access material and supply usage, and the rest were smaller variances in other categories. The fare box operating ratio year-to-date is 41.9%, which is 0.1% better than February. And that concludes the finance report.
Any questions? I'd just like to note that beginning next month, we're going to have a detailed report on overtime and the variances in overtime. Again, I look forward to our financial picture going forward. Okay, capital program.
Okay. Our capital program report appears on page 113, and you'll note in the highlights that I have a construction start of the MTA police facility in Merrick, and we're pleased to undertake this project, which will give us another police location. It'll include a front desk, offices, employee facilities, and lighting. And that project was awarded to CNA Enterprises for $602,000 on April 27th. And we look forward to a March 2011 completion date. On page 114, you'll see our standard reports. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I also wanted to note that I did bring this month the time-lapse photography DVD on the Atlantic Viaduct. I'm going to hand these out. It really is just fascinating if you have time to take a look at it. You only wish you could actually do the projects that fast, the way it shows each sequence of a section of the track coming out and being replaced, and the steel spans underneath being replaced. This is the project in Phase 1 that we did win we were awarded by the American Society of Civil Engineers, Long Island branch, as Project of the Year. So I'm delighted to congratulate Kevin Tomlinson and his team on that. It's been a very good and very exciting project, and one that was extremely important for our railroad. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will go right to our inventory report, which is on page 118. And like Howard, it gives you an update, like the Metro North report gives you an update on our inventory value. At the end of March was $157.2 million. And this, while it represents an increase in the maintenance of way inventory, it represents a decrease in the maintenance of equipment. I will say that this is one area that we have also targeted for savings in our budget. We have a Long Island Railroad Inventory Management Task Force, and we think that the decreases you're seeing in maintenance of equipment is largely attributed to that new effort by the task force. And again, we're looking at mins maxes, we're looking at the timing and volume of inventory with the goal of reducing the number of items on the shelf and increasing the turnover in stock. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
I can tell you that Lily and Afanito will be happy that we're spending as much time as we are on inventory control. When I first got here, I was on her committee, and that's all I heard was inventory control. So I think she'd be happy now that that has become a focus.
Remember that well.
Absolutely true.
Any other questions? Okay. Police report. Chief.
Good morning. Overall, the system, we're +7 crimes, 91 versus 84, although that includes Staten Island. For Metro North, it's +6 for the year, 43 versus 37. That's due mainly to an increase in larcenies. Long Island Railroad is -6, 38 versus 44, and that's a decrease in robberies and assaults. So combined, though, it's even. So if you add Staten Island, then we're just down. So for the sake of this meeting, we're even.
Any questions? Okay, capital construction. Now, Mike, before you start, we took your advice, and we went on our tour.
Okay.
And it was fascinating.
Terrific.
It was, it's really interesting because you vote on all this stuff, but until you see it, you don't really realize what's.
It's one of those things that you have to see to believe it. Right.
Right. And one of the things that I've talked to both Helena and Howard about, and that is that it might be a good idea for Metro North members to take a trip out on the Long Island Railroad to take a real look at what we're dealing with here, and for them to do the same north, so that we become at least familiar with all the things that are going to be thrown at us.
You mean other than Yankee Stadium?
Other than Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
You have to go further north.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, the report this month has been enhanced somewhat by including a page of budget and funding status charts, as you see it. And we are adding something that we thought is important because this is a focus of our efforts, is a safety performance since we're doing so much heavy construction. The presentation basically this month is just going to give you an update. In Manhattan, one TBM was relaunched at the end of March, and the drive to drill the fourth another tunnel, and is going to be completed at the end of this month, at the end of May. The other TBM completed a portion of its third drive, and at this point is staffed, is a planned shutdown, and that will be reactivated at the end of this period. The excavation is underway in the station cavern. Anyone that's been there has seen that. And we're using both drill and blast, control blast obviously, as well as mechanical excavation using some road headers, and this is spectacular to see how they work. In Queens, the Harold structure, the contractor continues to work at location on the critical path in order to turn over the site to the Queens contractor that will bore the tunnels, the sub-ground tunnels, and basically the contractor for the Queens bore tunnel started the open cut excavation that includes the launching pit for the TBM. So that's proceeding. Excavation will continue through the summer in preparation for the arrival of the 2 TBMs due in the fall. So at that point, towards the end of the year, we're going to be in a position to approach a startup of the tunneling in Queens. The negotiation for the procurement of the escalator and elevator contract are underway. So that's another thing that is moving forward, as well as MTACC delivered 2 catenary cars to Amtrak to assist with the installation of the catenary poles throughout Harlow interlocking, and Amtrak has committed additional resources for which we pay, but it's important that they committed additional resources so we can advance the work. What I would like to do now is to just show you a short presentation on our safety, because that's something that we believe is quite important. Patrick, can we do that? What you're looking at is the lost time injury rate for heavy and civil construction, and we are measuring ourselves here against the BLS statistics that actually at the end of 2009 were lowered. The bar was 2.6 injuries per 200,000 work hours per year. As you could see, at the beginning of 2009, we're actually right there with the BLS. We would like to be much lower than that. We started to drop. Right now we're about 1.9, and this is just for the east side access. Could you move to the next? What we want, in order to continue the downtrend, we have established a goal for 2010 of reducing the lost time rate by 10%, and we're doing that for all our projects and overall. Just to get a sense, MTACC cumulative for 2009 was actually 179. If you notice, we're 19 here. So overall, we are lower than actually what the East Side Access has, and we expect to go even lower. That's cumulative from the flood, so we keep moving forward. So we're actually lower overall, but it's not enough to draw us back. In order to achieve that, and this is very important for us, we need to do certain actions, and some of them is basically to review the daily worksite report and assessments. And we will shut down contractors if they have repeated violations. That actually requires us to enforce disciplinary policy procedures. And once you shut them down, we expect to really enforce the liquidating damages due to safety shutdowns. That means they will be penalized, in fact, if they are creating unsafe conditions. In order to do that, okay, we have already increased our safety engineering staff to 12 people. And we are really developing greater coordination between the safety teams and the construction management teams. We are implementing monthly Safe Work Plan Audits, and we are really looking at the accident to investigate, to capture lessons learned. What did we do wrong that we could improve on? One of the things that we are looking for in the future is to track recordable incidents, not an accident, but incidents. Incidents, if you have many of them, will actually lead to accidents. So that's a good indicator of problems going forward. We're going to, at this point, they are providing monthly safety performance metrics beyond the OSHA statistics. So I will be able to know that in advance, as well as schedule. I will be scheduling regular meetings with contractor to focus not only on just how you're progressing with the work, but specifically discussing their safety record. Some contractors basically are better than others, and we basically encourage them and ask them to provide incentive programs of some sort so their employees will actually behave in a safe manner. That's about it.
Okay, next on the agenda is procurements. We've got Metro North has 4 procurements for $113,586,235. I'd like to get a motion in a second. Okay, some discussion. I only have one question. We have a procurement from Henry Brothers Electric for $10,150,000 under Metro North, and it's also included under the procurements for capital construction for $12,635,000. I guess the question is, does it need to be in both places?
No, it doesn't need to be in both places. It's one item.
so we can eliminate from the Metro North. That's going to be.
Yeah, and I would just add in terms of the procurements, I just want to bring your attention to, again, first of all, we do have a series of joint procurements between all the agencies, Metro North, Long Island Railroad, as well as others. And then we do have a large ratification on the fuel contract. This was a multi-agency effort led by Metro North, and this ratification is for New York City Transit. There was a serious timing issue they needed as they changed their business practices, and they had to proceed to distribute the necessary cards to their big fleet so they could use the fueling. So we needed to move ahead on that. This procurement's very successful. We saved over $8 million on a $100 million contract. That's I think a very good savings, representing the efforts of all the agencies and also the power of the joint procurement. That's the one I did want to highlight for you.
Sure. Could I ask a question on that, Howard? That's one that, we talked a lot with the Sprague, and this seems like the off-site services, not necessarily fuel going directly.
That's right.
I'm trying to understand the discount that they ended up giving you. Was it 2.5 cents off the retail price pump?
Well, this in the end is not with Sprague.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
But you said that you saved $8 million off of.
Yeah,
that's off of the Sprague bid, not necessarily off of what you've done in the past.
That's correct. It's a comparison of what Sprague, under their old way of doing business, versus this way of doing business with Wright. Is Anthony Bombay there? Can you answer Jeff's question?
So it's 2.5 cents off the retail price, and that's consistent with where we've been historically.
We haven't done it.
Right. Which created the problem when we were dealing with Sprague, right? Because there was a lot of fuel that was not there. Right.
This opens up competition. It brings in, like you said, the off-site vendors. Vendors that do off-site are more like credit card companies. Mm-hmm. It brought in that whole field of vendors. We compared the old way, the historical way, versus the newer way, which is the credit card type company. And $8 million worth of savings. We had that eye on the prize for a while.
And the number of locations, they're all pre-approved locations that actually take this card. Is that how it works?
Throughout the metropolitan area for all the different agencies, mostly controlled by NYCT. 5 boroughs mostly.
Thanks. Talk to them.
Jim?
On the East Coast Rail Services and the Long Island Ecology Sanitation, this is for rail tie removal.
Yes.
The statement is that I guess neither one of these could handle both.
Right.
They said for geographic reasons, which mystified me a little bit. But so if we could get an answer to that. And secondly, while we talk about how each of these bids was better than the competing bids within its territory, how do the bids compare with one another? In other words, which of these two was cheaper?
Jim, on the what we did with the solicitation, we opened up the solicitation.
Who's talking?
I'm talking right now. Oh, I'm sorry. What we did was we opened up the solicitation so you can bid either both entities, both the railroad, Long Island, both Metro North. So you could do either or. In this case, we received 2 bids for each. So we received 2 bids at Metro North, 2 bids at Long Island. In comparison to each other, they're very, very close. There was no increase at the Long Island service versus their previous contract. There was a slight increase in Metro North side. What we did was you could take all if you wanted to bid on both entities. If you were a vendor, a prospective vendor, you can bid on both Metro North and Long Island, or you can bid on either or. You can bid just the Metro North side and just the Long Island side. Our bidders ended up doing that. They stick with what they knew best. They bid on the Metro North side. The Metro North vendor bid on just the Metro North side, and the Long Island vendor bid on just the Long Island side. Historically, they stayed the way they previously had bid.
Okay, so it was really the vendor choice.
It was vendor choice. You could either take it all, or you could take whatever part you wanted to bid on.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, Long Island procurements.
There are 5 procurements in this month's package. The items in the non-competitive section involve a sole source blanket purchase order for 36 months, not to exceed $850,000 for spare parts, for scheduled and unscheduled maintenance in the power system inverters on the M3 cars. We also have a sole source procurement to Heidelberg Print Shop equipment, which allows us to maintain the equipment through May 31st, 2012. May I have a vote on the non-competitive procurement?
I need a motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
In the competitive section, we request board approval to adopt a resolution to declare competitive bidding impractical as we move forward. I'm sorry.
You already voted, but it's just on the M3 procurement for the propulsion system, the converters. I'm just wondering, does all of our equipment have this kind of software on it where someone else owns the proprietary rights to it? I mean, is that typically what we do for our rolling stock? I mean, it seems to me inverters are common equipment, and this seems to be custom designed for the M3s. It was a long time ago. I'm just wondering, both Metro North, Long Island, and even Transit, I start to wonder, are we stuck with one? Are they always stuck with one distributor? I haven't spent the answer now, but it would be something to look in the future, not just us, but other transit properties, to try and gain some more competitiveness here. To say that this is an important part of the equipment for rolling stock.
You're hitting a very important ongoing question with original equipment manufacturers and the subsystems that are provided on our fleets. You do very much get into the issue of who's left supporting equipment that was manufactured so many years ago. We'll get back to you on this one in particular. We do work hard as we move forward, and that's one of the issues that's been very effective in moving where we can on joint procurements between the two agencies to try to reduce the impact of relying on just sole source providers.
But what struck me, I mean, that's generally what it is, but what struck me about this contract, it said that the manufacturer has, they have the proprietary interest in the proprietary rights to the circuit board, which means that's it. They're it. I mean, that happened when the equipment was well before a lot of people were here, but I think that's something going forward we should look at. Either the MTA should contract separately, design and own the proprietary rights, or something else, unless this is a fine deal and we're just doing peachy here. But I don't know. I'm told if we're ordering this equipment from a private manufacturer. All the equipment, you go out to bid, and supposing we do something like that, you hope for competitiveness. But here we wound up stuck with one manufacturer, and we have to go to them now forever.
Well, and that's their plan, and they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones in fleet manufacturing.
But I mean, it's not just us. There's transit. Right. There's us. I mean, all the equipment must use similar type equipment. I don't see why we can't. I mean, that's something maybe we should talk with. I know Prendergast probably has a lot of knowledge about this. Right. That's something going forward. It's too late now, but going forward for new equipment, I think it would be a good thing to do. So we aren't faced with this.
But again, it depends on what the impact is on the unit price per car. To buy their proprietary rights means that the cost per car can go up significantly. But we'll look at that. I mean, we're moving forward with fleet procurements where we face this issue. And don't forget, the M3s have many less computerized and electronic.
Yes, I know, than the M7s.
Than the M7s, as will the M8s and the M9s in future procurement.
Excuse me, sometimes, too, these things are designed to fit in a certain area of a certain car that's designed with a certain shape.
Right.
And to go out and to have this thing remanufactured might cost you more money. I'm just giving you for instance.
Right. If I may, it's a real balance because, again, the original procurement when you buy the vehicle is very much a competitive environment. What happens then subsequently, as being described, is you end up with the OEM parts for a reason you just described, Carl, and a number of other reasons. And so it's a balance of where do you try to get equivalence and engineer equivalence to get competition after the fact, where the cost of doing that versus what you're going to save down the road.
Dennis, was there anything on this one in particular?
Well, the inverters that we have on the car now, they were changed out about 10 years ago. We had motor alternators, and then that went through a whole reconfiguration about 10 years ago. So these things are now coming to the end of their, not their useful life, but where we need to have them maintained better. And again, the age of the fleet really kind of dictates the equipment that we have in there and the requirement for the ongoing maintenance for the inverters. You should also know, just as a point of information, when we talk about joint procurements, last year we let contracts somewhere in the neighborhood of about $257 million for just the kinds of things that you're talking about specific to the M7 between us and Metro North.
Okay.
One of the things I think I should mention that over the years we have always looked at the original equipment manufacturer issue, and we've indicated that we have to search out as much competition out there as we can. But in certain cases, there's just not any competition based upon the facts and figures. So as much as we try to get as much competition as possible, there's still going to be a tremendous amount of original equipment manufacturers as a result of a reduction in the price of the rolling stock.
Okay, and I do need a vote on the competitive section, which is to permit us to go forward with an RFP for the Merrick Belmore direct fixation track fastener system.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, I have one joint procurement, and then I know we have capital construction, so I just want to make sure I'm going in the right order. Long Island Railroad was a lead in a joint procurement involving Metro North and MTA headquarters, and that was in the amount of $238,000 for scheduled and unscheduled elevator and escalator inspection services for a 3-year period with 2 one-year renewal options. And we request a approval of those contracts.
One question. We have 3 separate contracts with them for the 3 separate agencies?
They were procured together. It was a joint procurement effort, but this way each agency can call directly for the services they need on elevators and escalators.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? I need a motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Before we turn to the capital construction procurements, I just had one final note I wanted to mention on the Long Island Railroad report. A former Long Island Railroad president passed away, Robert Pattison. You may have seen the obituary. I wanted to note that we were in contact with Bob Pattison last year for our 175th anniversary celebration. We asked if he was well enough to join us for the 175th. A number of former presidents came back for that anniversary celebration. He sent us a lovely note that while he was not well enough to travel, he did send to us a bicentennial flag that was flown at Long Island Railroad in 1976, and he wanted us to have it.
Michael.
Ronnie?
Ronnie.
You there?
There are 2 competitive procurements this month totaling $13.4 million. One already mentioned is the award to Henry Brothers, and the second is a modification to the Perini contract working out in Queens.
Do you have any questions? Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next meeting is Monday, June 21st at 8:30 a.m. I need a motion to adjourn. Motion made, second. Carried.
So we're good? We don't have any?